So this is my apiary. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hives in this apiary. And this is the box that I've selected to move into my top bar hive. There's a couple of different reasons for that. One is, you'll notice that's the only hive that still uses any deep brood boxes. I've moved as a standard to all mediums elsewhere in my apiary. There's a couple of shallow supers on a couple of these boxes that are still in use, but for the most part, I've moved to using all medium size boxes, or Illinois supers, in the rest of my apiary. But this box is kind of a legacy box. It still has deeps, and I'd like to quit using those completely in my apiary. There's a second reason too. These bees in these deep boxes actually came from another beekeeper who began to age and decided that she just couldn't keep her bees up anymore. And I suspect that she used chemicals in treating mites in her hive, something that I don't do anymore. And the combs are really dark and old and ugly. And so I know they've been around for a while. So it's time these bees had some new wax anyway. And I've decided the way I'm going to do that is to move these bees into a top bar hive and let them completely build out a new hive with new combs. So they're a good candidate for a couple of different reasons for me to move into my top bar hive. I'm going to start the transition to moving these bees into the top bar hive by moving this hive out of place and then taking my top bar hive and move it into the same spot on the same milk crates that I use for a hive stand and everything, so that bees returning to the hive, I'm late in the afternoon now, a lot of bees will have returned to the hive, but any bees returning to the hive will come back to this hive. I'm sure there'll be a little drift, especially since this hive looks considerably different than the one they've been used to flying into, but there's not much I can do about that. But I am going to put it in the spot of this old hive. Alright, as you can see, I've got the old hive moved out of the way. It's actually sitting over here open on the ground, broken down into pieces. There were two hives on this pallet you may have noticed a minute ago. I went ahead and moved the other one down to the next pallet so that this is the only thing on this pallet. It may pick up some bees from both of those hives that are returning. I've got everything opened up and ready to go. The bees are going to go up here in the front. You can see I've got a cotton ball down in there that's soaked in lemongrass oil. I've got my feeder set up and full of syrup and installed behind my follower board where the bees will be able to get to it. Now the next step is to start taking frames out of this hive and shake them into this box and start them on their transition into their new home. Okay, so I've progressed a little further with moving the bees into their new top bar home. I just wanted to show you, here's an example of one of those old ugly combs I was telling you about. And you can see it's quite deformed. You can see that these bees have struggled. Some of the combs have a really poor laying pattern, although I have some that look a good bit better in that hive, a couple that are wall-to-wall brood. You can see a couple of queen cells here on this hive frame. And there's a reason for that. This hive has struggled over and over again. It'll lose a queen and make another. I'll introduce a queen. I introduced a commercial queen from a breeder that I love, Wolf Creek Apiaries, who has great bees. And after a while, they all struggle in this hive. And again, I wonder if it's not because of that old comb. So they've tried to raise queens several times. There's cells in there all the time. And yet you can see some frames have great brood pattern. I did one cutout. I decided to help for a couple of reasons. One, to make the bees happy in this new home and to provide them with that brood as it hatched out. That was a frame with just a great brood pattern. And so I went ahead and did a cutout on it and stuck it in the hive for right now. We'll let them work from there. And later, after they get some other combs going, I'll take that comb out after all that brood hatches. But you can see I've dumped a bunch of bees down in that box, and they're pretty excited right now. I'm about to close them up real quickly with one cutout frame, and the rest is going to be up to them. So now the top bar hive is all closed up. You can see I put a couple of bricks on there just for weight. But everything's closed up. One note, had to take that entrance reducer off because it was too small for the bees to get in and out. And so I'm just going to hope they don't abscond. You can see them outside of the entrance here, coming and going right now. Hopefully, since this box is in the place of the other box, the bees will just come and go like they did before. And that's the end of our experiment for the day. Now we'll see what they do with it.